Greetings, everybody. My name is Philip Koch, and I will be doing the next part of this presentation. A little bit about myself. I work for Norwich University Applied Research Institutes, and with the help of our Decide platform, we deliver distributed cybersecurity exercises to simulate cyber attacks for organizations and their partners to stress and test incident response plans, resulting in after-action reports to improve strategic communication, compliance, risk, and overall resilience. Being part of the emergency management community, we deeply value all things ICS, Incident Command System. And we greatly appreciate the opportunity to be part of the team who will develop the methodology to apply these principles to the management of the incidents related to the industrial control systems. Today, I will be presenting the part of the workshop that covers the incident response planning cycle, also known as the Planning P, for the industrial control systems incident management. A little quick history. Incident Command System, ICS, takes its roots from decades of various incident management and response events, primarily those that took place in California during firefighting incidents of different scopes and magnitudes. Throughout multiple years of research, it was determined that response problems could rarely be attributed to lack of resources or failure of tactics. Surprisingly, studies found that response problems were far more likely to result from inadequate management than from any other single reason. A little bit of fast forward. Two important developments took place in the incident management battle. The first one was the development of a Universal Incident Command System, ICS. ICS is a system that permits fresh external resources and other than local managerial and supervisory personnel respond to the scene of incident in the event when the local jurisdiction has reached the limits of their incident response capabilities and take over the management and response activities upon the receipt of necessary briefings. So, why use Incident Command System when managing industrial control system incidents? Well, first of all, it actually is mandated by Homeland Security Presidential Directive 5, HSPD 5. There are other benefits to using Incident Command System. As you can see on the slide, they're listed, and we will go over each one of them. Standard approach. The process coordination and management strategies are the same for all responders. Effectiveness. As we mentioned before, Incident Command System was born from decades of emergency management activities. Unity of command. Everyone knows who is in charge. Clarity of responsibilities. Everyone is assigned a role, a title, and a task. Span of control. Everyone is supervising or managing a reasonable number of personnel or tasks. Common terminology. No agency-specific acronyms and abbreviations. Everybody speaks the same language. Adaptability. Incident Command System is a very flexible system. It can be used for an event of any size and complexity. It can also grow or shrink upon the needs of the incident. Planned and unplanned events. It is perfect for managing both types. Unity of effort. Incident Command System eliminates duplication of efforts and ensures that multiple units are not working on the same problem unbeknownst to each other. Accountability. Since everybody is assigned a specific role, title, task, or duty, it is easy to maintain accountability and hold people accountable for their actions. Accountability during incident operations is essential.
The incident command structure will need to abide by company policies and guidelines and any applicable laws and regulations. The second achievement of the battle was the development of the Incident Management Planning Cycle process, aka Planning P, that identifies the planning steps necessary to determine the course of action, identify and request necessary resources, deliver necessary information to the field personnel, stakeholders, and media if necessary, monitor and assess the ongoing response activities, and develop adjustments and course corrections as necessary. Incident Command System and the Planning P are ideal to use for events that will most likely last for more than one operational period, whatever that period is determined to be by your organization, will most likely exert your local response capabilities and require assistance from external sources, affect more than just one jurisdiction and therefore require unified response, all of the above or any combination of them. Important to understand, Planning P process is a planning process conducted by the leadership, while the initial responders are working in the field and trying to isolate, contain, stabilize, mitigate, or eradicate the issue. If they succeed, utilization of the planning process will no longer be required. So, without further ado, let's dive into the exciting world of the incident management planning process, as it may apply to industrial control systems incident. The theme of our workshop today is as follows. We have an industrial control system related incident. Something went wrong with the HVAC system in our building, the temperature is rising, and the response personnel on scene have determined that the HVAC system has been compromised with malware. The vendor responsible is unable to contain or eradicate the issue and has no solutions to restore the system. Based on the existing escalating procedures, the CERT manager declares an incident and initiates the Incident Command System for Industrial Control Systems, ICS for ICS. Let's talk about the Planning P diagram you are looking at right now. As you can see, Planning P consists of two parts. The stem of the P, it represents the initiation, declaration of the incident. As we move forward with the presentation, I will go over the events that are affiliated with each block of the stem. These are initial response actions. This step in planning process only happens once during the incident, at the beginning. So, the first block, the incident or event itself. Industrial control and or cybersecurity staff identify an event with significant impacts, so they escalate to leadership, who may declare an incident and form the ICS for ICS team. You, the authority on site, have determined that you are dealing with an incident that will either go beyond one operational period, require external resources, involve multiple jurisdictions, go beyond the scope of your current capabilities, all of the above or any combination thereof, or any other reason. So you declare an incident. Step 2, notifications. You make appropriate notifications to your chain, giving them brief description of the information at hand. Step 3, initial response and assessment. Your on-duty team is on the scene, either industrial control or cybersecurity staff. They assess the situation and they provide the information necessary for the initial incident brief that is delivered via ICS Form 201. We will cover this form in a few minutes. At this time, the first page of the 201 form is prepared. This is your very basic initial description of the incident to be used to deliver to the responding personnel. Often, if there is no time or no resources, this can be handwritten with a sketch. We will now go over the form, and at the end of the presentation, you will see the entire form as well as other forms we will discuss today, properly filled out and signed by the appropriate members of the command and general staff. As we go through this part of the presentation, we will cover a few forms frequently used during a response managed under the incident command system structure. These and other forms are important to use because they ensure a structured, traceable, and unified incident management process. This is page 1 of the Incident Command System Form 201. It includes the map of the area, or a sketch, or a picture, or any type of the area description, and the very basic, currently known, description of the incident and the affected components of the industrial control system. Incident area map, and very basic incident description. Next step, initial incident commander or unified command meeting. This is the time for the incident commander to organize thoughts and come up with preliminary ideas about the goals and the objectives of the response. This is also the time when the length of the operational period is determined. In the event if there is more than one incident commander, unified command, multiple responders with equal stakes, authority, and areas of responsibility, all of the above is decided and agreed upon by the unified command. Now that the initial response phase is over, we are entering the circular planning cycle. This phase will be continuously repeated for the duration of the response. First, I see you see develop objectives and update objectives meeting. So it's called the objectives meeting. At this meeting, the objectives are developed, identified. Incident commander determines the following: response priorities. Is it safety of life? Is it to get the industrial control systems back online? Is it the public information, etc.? Limitations and constraints of the response. Limitations is what can limit the activities. For example, will the union object to longer hours? Will the local community object to the noise after 11 p.m.? Constraints. What is going to make the response activities impossible? For example, a hurricane is about to strike the city. Working on the electric devices out in the open is dangerous. Or severe cold. Working outside is out of the question. Or the mayor said that no matter what, no response activities can take place until the organization makes a fully disclosed public statement about what is happening, and so on. CIR, Critical Information Requirements. Identify and deliver to the team what type of information the incident commander wants to know in the middle of the night versus what type of information can wait until the next scheduled meeting. At this time, the objectives are identified but not discussed. Later on, they will be reviewed by the team and categorized as managerial versus operational. Next meeting, command and general staff meeting. Important to know, this is the only time during this operational period when all members of the team are in the same room. This is the time to ask any questions that the incident commander might need to clarify. For example, this is where the finance section chief gets to ask the incident commander about what the spending limit is for this response. This is the time for public information officer to find out if they have commander's permission to prepare and release the public and media messages and make statements without having to clear each media contact with the incident commander. Incident commander briefs everybody on the length of the operational period, the CIRs, critical information requirements, and so on. The preliminary org chart of the response is identified here. Not every response will have all ICS positions activated. In the event if position is unassigned, the responsibility for those actions goes to the next level supervisor. For example, if there is no resource unit leader or documentation unit leader, the responsibility stays with the planning section chief. Or if there is no finance section chief, then the responsibility for those actions goes to the incident commander. Continuing with the ICS 201 form. As the staff discuss the objectives, they get categorized as managerial versus operational and assigned to appropriate members. Do not forget, while the meetings are happening, the field personnel are working on the response. Block 8 identifies the ongoing tasks and persons responsible. The preliminary structure of the response team is developed here. Positions, titles, and people are identified and aligned, and the org chart is created. This block shows units currently on scene or those that have already been ordered in. Important to know, at this time we are still talking about our organization's resources that we know we have on hand. We are not ordering assistance from the external sources just yet. Preparing for tactics meeting. This is the time for the operations section chief to prepare for the tactics meeting. During this time, operations section chief develops the strategy to handle the issue, identifies the structure of the operations section, which, how many, and what types of divisions, groups, teams, or task forces will be required. ICS 215 form is prepared in the process. The safety officer monitors the process and prepares the ICS 215A form to mitigate possible safety concerns they may see in the operations plan. ICS 215 form Operational Planning Worksheet. On this worksheet, Operations Section Chief identifies that they would need, in this case, 2 additional teams or divisions. One for the HVAC mitigation, have one on scene, need another one to relieve. One industrial control systems repair team, there is currently one working, so 2 more are needed to provide reliefs. This form identifies where the units should report and by what time they should be there. Let me just very quickly demonstrate. So, Operations Section Chief decides that they will need 1 HVAC mitigation team. They need 2 in total. They need 2 in total. They currently have 1 working on the scene, so they require 1 more. And same goes for industrial control system repair team. They identify who they will report to. They identify what type of equipment they need to bring. They identify what the reporting location is. And they identify the requested arrival time. And all the math is being done here. At the same time, safety officer is shadowing operations section chief and prepares incident action plan safety analysis, ICS form 215A. With this form, safety officer identifies possible safety hazards and offers mitigation strategies. For example, just for this incident here, safety officer identified that at HVAC location number 1, whatever that location may be, there may be a risk of heat exhaustion for one of the HVAC crews. Safety officer suggests mitigation strategy. Work in pairs so that one partner can always watch the other. Make sure security visits every 15 minutes in case both partners get exhausted. Security will be there to spot it. And make sure there is a volunteer EMS truck standing by at location, and so on. Tactics meeting. As it says on the slide, during this meeting, the operations section chief has one job: sell the plan to logistics and finance section chiefs and secure their support in providing what is needed. This is why it was important for the finance section chief to determine the spending ceiling from the incident commander during the command and general staff meeting. We must know if we can actually pay for what operations section chief is requesting. Safety officer is also present at this meeting to request additional resources, if needed, to mitigate the hazards. Liaison officer and public information officer may be present if there are issues that may have impact on the operations plan, for example, community concerns, media sensitivity, and so on. Once operations section chief has secured support from finance and logistics section chiefs, it is time for preparation for the planning meeting. At this time, operations section chief will refine and confirm the intended course of action, strategies, and tactics, and will begin to request resources. So once logistics and finance section chiefs agreed to the ops plan, operations section chief may begin requesting resources with this 213 RR form. RR stands for request resources. Big meeting, planning meeting. This is the meeting that everybody attends. Operations section chief will present the plan. Everybody else must agree to support the plan or not agree if they find reasons not to. And upon securing support of the plan from all members of the command and general staff, incident commander will agree to approve the plan. This meeting should have no surprises and no last-minute good idea fairies. By the time this meeting happens, all tactics and strategies have been confirmed, everybody knows how they can support the operations section chief, and everybody is in agreement with the plan. Upon completion of the planning meeting, IAP preparation and approval time begins. This is the time when Incident Action Plan and the ICS 204 form are developed. Incident Action Plan will cover every aspect of the response for the duration of upcoming operational period. Medical plan, communications plan, operations, safety, stakeholder engagement, public information requirements, and so on. ICS 204 form is the assignment list form. This is the meat and potatoes of the entire planning process. This form will be prepared for each division or group supervisor, and it will list individual assignments for their respective teams. Assignment list, ICS 204. This form is a collective effort. Different blocks are prepared by different members of the ICS team. For example, Operations Section Chief prepares the main header and the work assignment section. Resource Unit Leader or Logistics Section Chief, if Resource Unit Leader is not activated, prepares Assigned Resources block. Anyone who has special instructions will touch this block. This is where Public Information Officer gives instructions about media contact. This is where Liaison Officer gives instructions about contacts with the stakeholders. This is where Safety Officer provides safety tips, and so on. This section will be filled out by either Communications Unit Leader, or if one is not activated, by Logistics Section Chief. And now the big moment, operations brief. The entire ICS staff is present. Also present are the supervisors of the personnel who will be working in the field. This is the first time the supervisors receive the incident brief. In some cases, they may have no idea why they are here and what is happening. This applies more to the government sector type of natural disaster response. But there may arguably be situations when this could happen on the private sector side as well. During this time, the field supervisors receive full brief and their individual assignments listed on the 204 form. All members of the ICS team must be prepared to provide clarification and answer any type of questions the field supervisors may have. Execute plan and assess progress. This is the beginning of the new operational period. Divisions respond to the pre-identified locations and receive the briefing from the supervisors based on the ICS 204 assignments. As the field operations begin, so does the monitoring of the progress and the course adjustment planning for the next operational period. And we've made a full circle. While the progress reports are coming in, the incident commander begins updating objectives and priorities, and the wheel of the planning cycle keeps on spinning. Last but not least, how do we determine the time periods necessary to prepare for each upcoming meeting? This step is different for each individual response, but a common technique is to work backwards from what we know. For example, let's say we know that the operational period for this particular event is set by the incident commander to be 12 hours from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So we know when the period begins, 6 a.m. To begin this period, there must be an operations brief. Usually, operations brief needs about an hour, so we know it will happen around 5 a.m. But before we can have the ops brief, we must prepare the incident action plan and the work assignment forms, 204s. This is a lengthy process, easily requires about 2 to 3 hours, which means that we know that our planning meeting will take place around 2 a.m. Before we can have the planning meeting, operations, logistics, and finance sections must prepare for it, prepare and approve, request for resources, hash out any issues, and so on. So the preparation for the planning meeting will most likely take about 1 to 2 hours, which means that we now know that our tactics meeting should be scheduled for approximately 12 a.m. midnight. And before we have our tactics meeting, we need to prepare for it. This is when the main sausage is being made by the operations section chief. So allocating 3 to 4 hours to this step is not unusual. Before we can start our preparation, we must get briefed. Based on our time allocation so far, we can see that this meeting should fall on approximately 8 p.m., which means that the incident commander develop update objectives process should cover the remaining slack of time between the start of the operational period and the command and general staff meeting. So we can roughly assign it to 7 p.m. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time.